G'day everyone, Teal here from TM Suttery and Bushcraft. I've had a few people recently, g'day bud, I've had a few people recently message me and ask about fatwood and saying that they can't find it in Queensland. I'm in a pine forest in Queensland. It's a state forest, so legally I'm allowed to be here, and there is heaps. It's everywhere. So I've come out to this area that, as you can see, most of the gum trees behind me are fairly young, and this area has been harvested, and this is an area that isn't used for pine much anymore. So if my best mate will jump out of the way, come out of the way, you can see some fairly large size logs. You can see just by that it's quite loose. I'll get a couple of close photos of it, and yeah, we'll go from there and I'll show you. This is pine plantation, so they're all dead straight trees, all growing very uniform. This is one that I look for that isn't. It's the one that's, you know, a bit gnarly, a bit bent, maybe, you know, had a few storms, things like that. They're the ones that are going to get injured, and as they heal, they pump resin into those areas. Now, a lot of low branches. If you look at this one here, we'll just snap that off. Now, ordinarily a lot of people will just go, oh, and they'll look at it and go, oh, there's no pine resin in it. They'll chuck the stick and keep going. Even if you shave it a little bit, it doesn't look like there's much in there. What I like to do is line up about a 45-degree angle, very sharp axe. This is very important. Making sure that I'm not going to swing back and hit myself or anything like that, even take a knee in some situations. One quick clean swipe like that, comes straight off, and you should see the pine resin in this, the fatwood, sorry. Look at how brown that is. So that's just a prime example of knowing exactly where to look. We cut the branch off up further and it was really quite white. And we cut it down lower and you see those side by side comparison. So there'll be resin probably about from there back into this one. Rightio. Now this is a really good example. This branch has fallen off this tree and it's got a lot of white clear resin on it. If we open this up, it's just normal timber up there, but all the resin from that branch has come all the way down to where it's been injured. So we're going to cut off here and have all this pine resin. Now this hasn't permeated into the timber at all, so it's basically just coagulated around the grain, so it won't have that real dark colour to it. As you can see, it's just flaking off really easily there. It's got a nice sound to it. So this will be better to harvest for the pine resin. So we'll actually harvest the resin out of it, as opposed to the older ones that have had the sap where it's been damaged and it's permeated into the timber itself. Another favourite place I like to try are these pushers on the side of a road where a bulldozer comes down and they sort of just push to the side, also called swales I believe, but you can see this stump's been pushed over and it's been fairly beaten up. Quite often a lot of the roots are exposed as well, but just over time, like there's a root here, it's in the dirt. If you look at that, that doesn't really look like anything much, but scrape into it, look at how dark and rich and red that is. So Yeah, it's got that real turpentine smell to it. Some others here as well. This part looks fairly solid. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Hopefully that'll focus in on it from there. Yeah, yet again, really rich and red. A fairly heavy, dense bit of fatwood there. Alright, I'll get the camera readjusted and show you close up. Well, this is some of the stuff that we just sheared off this root here. And like you can see, it's fairly crumbly in a lot of spots, and then quite rigid and stiff in others. That's the parts that you look for. Those parts that are still rigid and stiff are because they're loaded with pine resin and they're actually hardening the timber. You can see even just that little chip that came off there, quite red and resinous. There's a big gnarly chunk there as well. Rightio, that is fatwood.